licensed clinical social worker and emotional wellness coach. And today I wanted to jump on here and talk about what happens when you're waking up in the middle of the night in a panic. I said that really fast. So hold on. Let me say that again. What happens when you're waking up in the middle of the night in a panic, and how to make that stop? That's really what we want to talk about today. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of where I am. I am in my closet right now. And that's relevant because yesterday I did a Ask Me Anything About Eliminating Symptoms of Anxiety, Depression, and Traumatic Stress video. And somebody asked a question on the replay. And I was like, I'm going to answer that tomorrow. And so I left my office and forgot to go live. But I was like, I will keep my word. And so this is my spot in the house that I love. I actually take my friend Zoom calls right here. So you are in the friend zone right now. And because it's like this little box of coziness right here. Anyway, and when you have 5 kids, you got to find a little spot. That's all yours. And anyway, but I did want to talk about that because I don't want you to go another night with not having a plan in place. And there's so much that you can do to eliminate panic attacks at night if you know what you're doing and what you're looking for. And I want to spell that out right now because why not? Who needs to suffer with that? That's happened with me. It happens with our kiddos. And it's like, if you know how to help with this, and you know what you're looking at, you can really, you can create a lot of change. Some of you may be experiencing nightmares every night of the week. I'm going to address that. If I don't, let's do this together. You make sure you post that comment just to remind me, because I don't have my papers. I don't have my notes here. Okay. So, but some of you have just panic attacks. I worked with a woman recently who was afraid to go to sleep because of panic attacks, and especially hers were in the morning. But you got to go to sleep to get to the morning, and if you don't go to sleep, then you don't have to get to the morning. And logically that makes no sense, but it makes all the sense when we're talking about the brain and what will happen and how our brain can be set up and immovable. Right? It does the same thing over and over and over again. And that's really frustrating. And it builds fear because you know it's going to happen. And you just don't know necessarily when or where. But if you've got panic attacks at night because of dreams or all sorts of things, you know that that's going to happen, and that adds another layer of stress to your life and fear and avoidance and all these things. And those are the things that we want to take down. We want you to have your sleep back. We want to really unravel that for you. And there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm going to talk about 2 different things here. And so, okay, that's what we're going to do. I'm going to talk about dreams and the awesome value that they provide us. And 2, the second thing is I'll go into timing during the night. Okay, so I'm saying this out loud so that we're all remembering. If I don't get to one of those, put it down there, or I will remember and we'll do another video on it. So the first thing is that, when I help people with dreams, if you're one of my clients and you talk something about a nightmare, you have all my ears. I am in full attention, because what's going on in dreams is a lot of subconscious material. And the subconscious mind doesn't speak to us in the same way that we're having this conversation, you and I. That's not its language. And so it's not going to say, hey, I have this problem that I keep trying to resolve and I can't resolve it. So can you help me out with that? It's not going to say that. If you're waiting for that, that's not going to happen. But if you're having dreams, you're hearing your subconscious mind tell you that it's got a problem and it needs some help. And if these dreams are reoccurring, I'm seriously excited about working with that dream. If there are themes and patterns that are reoccurring, that's great too. It doesn't matter. All of that is your subconscious mind telling us that there's work to do and that it needs some help. If it was going to resolve it, it would have done it already. There's something missing, whether it's a piece of information, if there's an emotion that's blocking it, if there's a lack of understanding, or a mental block or emotional block that you're dealing with on at least a subconscious level, then it's not going to move and it's going to stay stuck. So, and that's why these patterns keep reoccurring. And so so I want to, this is what's trying to come out of my mouth, but I keep moving along. So I'm going to stop and let it out. Our subconscious mind speaks to us in stories. A lot of people think that, so I love it when people tell me all kinds of stories. If you're lying to me, I think that's great, because your subconscious material is coming out right there, right? That it doesn't, that the words that we're using are part of our thinking center, right? But the stories we're telling, that's our subconscious. If you have a dream and you have this wild dream, that's your subconscious. There's lots of ways that I will use the subconscious mind to tell us what's going on with the body. And the subconscious mind is ready to play at all times. It wants to tell you all the things. And if you know what it's saying and you're listening to it, you will get all kinds of information. Write a letter to your mom, right? Whether you love her, you hate her, you're mad at her, she's alive, she's dead, she's whatever, write a letter. You will see in there lots of subconscious information. That's everything we're doing. Your subconscious mind is playing right along all the time. And so you can take that same function to create, to work with it. And it's in alignment when it's telling fabulous stories, when the stories are great. When the stories are awful, this is not good. That. But this means that something went off. Something is not, there's a block, right? So anyways, so what happens? And sometimes you're doing a lot of processing and working on things when you're sleeping and you have no idea what it is. And so this woman that asked me a question about waking up in the middle of the night with a panic, she didn't say she woke up from a nightmare. So I really don't know, but I'm going to answer the question anyway. What I do when I'm helping people eliminate that is I have them use an intervention right away upon waking up, period. That's the first round of defense. And so, especially if you're sleeping and you're not getting any dreams at all, then you're not getting that subconscious, you're not getting to participate with your subconscious like that. Something is happening in your dream that is alerting your survival system, and it's pressing the panic button. It's like, we're in danger, go. So I don't know what that is, but I know that if you start using an intervention, your brain really will start to pull it together itself. But if you wake up in a panic and you start using EFT, let's just say, because that's the easiest one, you don't need any training with that, you're going to help your brain shift from survival state into a regulated state. And what happens when you do that is that when you get back to the state, this is a healing state. You can do all sorts of healing. Some healing is going to happen during that time. Plus, panic is a big emotion. And if your system is making you panic, that means that there's panic somewhere in the back, in your subconscious somewhere, that needs to come out. And your brain is arranging this panic in such a way that it's happening. So it's not just happening to terrorize you, it's happening because it's way back in the crates and it needs to come out and it needs to move through the healing pathways so that it can be eliminated and processed and released. And actually, panic has a lot of information to tell us. And the brain has a natural way of taking all the information up into the thinking center where it gets dissected and all the information gets translated into stuff we can actually understand, because this is where we do all that understanding and wording happens up there. And so, but the emotions don't necessarily have words, but they have tons of information. And so when your brain is working on pulling them through the healing pathways, that is not a technical term. Rachel totally invented that because obviously there is a healing pathways. But it's, this is how I see it. There's the little guys back there in your subconscious mind in the crates, right? And your inner healer takes her little shopping cart down there and she goes down these winding trails, which are neural pathways, right? So she gets down there and she sees something that she wants and she says, hey, I've been looking for that. Let me grab that in here. And then she makes her way back, and that freaks out your survival system because what she may have in the crates is something very painful. Okay. And so if that happens, that gets alerted. Panic mode goes on, boom, boom, the systems, all the alarms go off, you're sweating, your heart's racing, because your survival system doesn't know what has happened. All we know is we got pain, and then she goes in there and, they find that your inner healer in here, your thinking center it's got this thing in there that it causes pain. We put it up and locked it away so we didn't have to feel this pain. And now you're down here and you're grabbing stuff up and you're making a mess, And so, but her job really is to move that stuff back into her area where she's going to break it up and really pull it. And panic is wonderful. It doesn't feel fabulous. I get that, right? But the brain converts panic into passion and joy and all kinds of fantastic things that you want it to get converted to. If you've got a lot of panic, you got a lot of other stuff that's potentially going to take place in your life. And if you can get that panic through the healing pathways, you get to have access to passion and joy and just enjoying the moment. And that's the flip side of panic. But if you can't get the panic through the conversion process, it doesn't happen. And there's so much more that happens. And so we really want your inner healer, your thinking center, to go grab this stuff up and pull it through. But that's a hard process. I've done some videos about that. I've talked about that. I've written about that. Definitely be looking at that stuff, because you're going to want to be familiar with that so that you can come through. So anyways, those are the healing pathways. That little path that she takes with her shopping cart to go grab your unresolved material, issues, problems, those are the healing pathways. When she goes down there and grabs it and brings it back up, that's it. That's the technical term. Okay. So there is such a thing, and you just might not find it in the DSM-5 or any neuroscientist talking about that. But anyways, so back to panic at night. So if you don't have any dreams to work from, you're just going to chip away at this symptom with an intervention. And you don't have to know what you're doing. You need to help your brain. You need to help your survival center turn off the alarms. And you need to help your inner healer grab up some of that panic and move it through. So that's the first round. And that is really what I'm talking about. I did a training video about 3 days ago talking about the first skill to build, the first anxiety elimination skill to build, and how to build it. So I laid all of that stuff out right there. If you're experiencing this, go to that training video and watch it and try it, because your brain can do amazing, amazing things for you. Okay, so that's the first thing I want to say about the panic attacks at night. If you wake up with a panic attack and you are waking up from a nightmare, this nightmare in it, I'm going to tell you, because we have a framework now, because I did the second training video. If you've been following those, you are right on time. If you haven't seen the training video, the second skill to build, watch that one too, because it'll give you more details on how to do this. But you want to treat that just like an event. You want to treat it just like something that happened, like it was a real thing. And you want to work through it piece by piece by piece by piece by piece. You want to spray these interventions all over it. And like I said, emotional freedom techniques is a really easy one to do. Now, the exception to this is if you have a lot of painful childhood memories, painful traumas, you may want some help moving through those, because it's as simple as these dreams are to treat, as simple as it is to end panic attacks. Panic attacks are one of the easiest problems to resolve. As simple as that is, people don't always have the skills for that. And it's a lot of energy coming at you. A panic attack is big energy. And so if you don't have the skills for that, that's okay. But no, you can get the help you need to work through that. Okay. And so I am speaking about this these are very simple things to do, because they are, it's not any more complicated. But you got to do it. And sometimes you need some more advanced skills, some more strategies to do it. But this is the step: attention and intervention, And so let's see. But anyway, you just work through that event. And what happens in there is, as you're working through the pieces that were disturbing to you, you are helping you're desensitizing it. Number one, you're taking the emotional pain is like this. And when you move through the stuff and you use the interventions, the emotional pain turns like this. Sometimes you can get it all the way down. And that's great, because that helps your inner healer grab stuff up. Down the healing pathways she goes while you're sleeping, right? She goes, and when you do an event like this and you look through it like that, you're sending her down there into quarantine, the dungeon down there. I have to change the name now that this whole COVID thing's going on, because COVID is stealing my quarantine. Anyway, so the dungeon, we're going to go to the dungeon. You're going to drive down there. You're going to pick up some stuff that's not supposed to be touched, but you've already worked on it through working with the stuff in this event, in this nightmare. You're using your EFT, you're using your EFT through it. You might come back around, do some more EFT. You're taking the pain and you're making it little, and you're looking back in there like, that was really scary, but now it's not. That's how it happens. That process, tapping, really helps, and EMDR and energy medicine helps. It like if something is so painful, all of a sudden it becomes less and less. It cools things down that were really hot. Now it's like, it's cool. Now it's okay. Now you can touch it and you don't like, ow, like survival. That's that right there was a survival mode, right? If you touch something hot, you don't think about it. You just, our brain's doing that all the time to us, in our relationships, in our lives, in our moments, in our dreams, right? And sometimes it's not accurate. And when it's not accurate, that's when we get to do this work to change how our survival system is interacting with everything around us, and it's interpreting as painful, and what it's interpreting as safe. And if it's safe, it will let it come through the healing pathways. She will go down there, your inner healer will go down there, put some stuff in her cart, and then she'll turn around, she'll bring it back up, and he'll be like, oh, okay, anyway, whatever. It'll be like, all right, see you later, see you next time. No big deal, no flags. But if you go down there, something that has not been desensitized and is really painful, as soon as she touches it, the alarms go off, because the touching of it activates it. And so then all of a sudden, there's a whole, like, what do you have in your cart, lady? And then there's this whole thing, and she comes back empty-handed, and she didn't get to fix the problem. And so she's got, oh, fine, I'll be back tomorrow night. And now you have reoccurring nightmares. And this fight goes on over and over and over and over and over and over. Like, please hear me say that like 3,000 times for you to get the picture, because you're experiencing this all the time. And so a way to just cut through that is, you take the event, you're pulling it out of the dungeon, and start tapping on it. Tap fast. Get through that as fast as possible. If you can't go get the event, the nightmare, that means that it's too intense for you. That's one of the meanings. But that's when you're going to want some help, because there's so many ways to get in there and to do some brain tricks and to get that thing desensitized enough so that you can pull it through, and that you can get your healing, and then you can get your emotion conversion. And then we don't want emotion staying over there, because then it's empowering. It's giving power to survival mode. And that's where you act like an animal, and you freeze, and you fight, and you snarl, and you fawn, and you faint. A lot more of you are fainting and fawning than you realize. Those of us, I tend to be more of a fighter, which is ridiculous, because I don't want to fight. I can't fight. But that's the survival mode that I will typically go into. But a lot of people, they're fainting, they're going straight to sleep. And other people are going to fawning, they're people pleasing. Oh, sure, really, whatever will make you happy. I'm sorry, I can't even believe I asked you for that thing that made you so, it was one of my needs, but it obviously made you so distressed. I won't ask for that again, right? Some fawning. That's a brief example of that. But panic, that's what we're talking about. So we're going to get back on track. So when you wake up at night, you're having nightmares, and you're gonna anything you can remember about the nightmare, you just want to be using EFT with, or if you already know how to use EMDR, do that. Or if you have some energy medicine strategies, do that. That will really help your brain process it, because you've done a lot of work with it already. A lot of times you don't even have to finish it. It's great if you do, But if you just get it moving, a lot of times it's tangled up somewhere and your brain was doing good, but all of a sudden it ran into this knot and it couldn't deal with it. So boof, panic. But if you do some tapping right there, the knot, sometimes you unloosen it enough. And then next thing you know, your inner healer is like, oh, I got this, no problem. And it's just moving through. No problems whatsoever. So we never have to worry about being perfect with this. Did I do enough? Did I not do enough? You're going to know, because your panic attacks are either going to stop or they're not. And if they don't, they probably will be different, or not, whatever. And you'll work on the next layer of them. And so you're going to repeat these things until the panic attacks are gone, until you've supported your brain with whatever work it wanted to do, until it's finished. So that's a piece to this. Okay. Another thing that I've found to be interesting is to pay attention to the time of the evening, the morning that you're waking up. In Chinese medicine, there's different meridians are stronger, or organs are stronger at different times, and each organ has a correlation with an element, and so I have tested this knowledge and found it to be very useful in my work. And so, for instance, I'm just going to run this down for you really quick. Liver is strongest during the hours of 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. Then it's lung from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. And then it's large intestine from 5 to 7. And then you got stomach from 7 to 9. Okay. I don't really pay attention to that, but that's valid for, have found that helpful for totally lots of different things. But if you're waking up between 1 and 3, a lot of times that's liver time, right? And the emotions connected to that have to do with anger, rage, and frustration directed at yourself. And so when I have clients that tell me that they are waking up around those times, I will start to be curious around, I wonder if there's any anger, rage, or frustration directed towards yourself coming up, especially if they're waking up multiple times then. Most of the time, they'll do this little thing and search around in their brain, and they'll say, yeah, actually. And that will be the focus of what we're doing that day. And then they come back and they're like, I'm good. And this is because that when you hit these emotions, like if you're sleeping and it's liver time and you've got a lot of work to do there and it can't do it, then it can't process all this anger, rage, and frustration towards yourself, you'll wake up. Now, if you also wake up in a panic, then you're going to apply the same things. You're going to start using your intervention. You're going to start using your EFT. I'm assuming that's the one you're going to use, but you get to choose. And then you do that. There's a couple of things you can do. That's for a whole nother video, though. There's some strategies, some energy medicine strategies that I really like to have clients do before they go to bed if that's their challenge, because they will move those emotions specifically, but I just cannot tell you this today. Okay. The second one is from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. This is the most common one that I run into in this is lung time, and it has to do with grief. Grief that you're processing. And so this is one, like I said, is the most common for my clients to move into, to be waking up with. And so if you're waking up around 3 o'clock, it's a great thing. 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, it's a great thing to start exploring what grief you're processing. Because if it's, like I said, if it's too much for your brain to do while you're sleeping, it's going to be something that you want to do during the daytime, or while you're awake, or while you're conscious, maybe before you go to bed, to just be using some emotional freedom techniques with the grief that's coming up. All this grief. We all have things that we've lost, whether it's things like a relative, or if it's things like we moved cities and we lost some scenery, we lost some friends, animals, pets, all of these things. Our friend at coworker at work moved to doing home work, and so we don't see her anymore. All these things we think, no, to your brain, that is not like nothing. That's not just baby stuff. I mean, okay, to us in the maturity land, okay, sure, fine, but your brain is causing you some problems, and so you should probably figure out how to support it right? And it thinks that's terrible. And there are lots of emotions going on there. Help it move that emotion. Help it move the emotion. And there's so many phenomenal things that happen when the emotion moves that you want to. Our emotions are part of our power. It's energy and motion. And that's really what we want to build our life with. But we want the emotion to come from here, not from survival or subconscious stuff, especially if your survival center has been programmed by somebody besides you and doesn't fit you and is taking you off in left field and all that stuff. you know I don't even know how I got here to this statement, but that is so hard. And been there. I find crap like that all the time. Anyway, but it's like, let me figure out how I got over here, because I got caught up in the subconscious being programmed by somebody else. Oh yeah, like this process helps you also take out the subconscious brain trash that is shoved into our brains a ton between 0 and 7 years old, right? If you had crazy town happening during that time, or abuse or neglect, there's some things in your subconscious that need to come out. This process really does that, and you can use your emotions to guide you and to empower the process. And so I'm saying don't neglect those emotions. They are part of your team, they're part of your power, and they can help you do so much more than what you think. But if they stay stuck over there, they will cause you so much pain. You will hate them. You will think that they are the devil. You will demonize them, and you will not be getting along with yourself. And that is a huge problem. But if you can pull them through the pathways, you start to build trust with them. You start to build an understanding. You start to build that you realize that, oh, we're all on the same team. Oh, you want this too? There's a whole thing that starts happening as you move emotion through the healing pathways. And really, that is really what I help people do. That's like my jam, is just pull that stuff through, because your brain is awesome. It just needs that emotion in the right spot. If it stays over here, you're going to keep acting like an animal. It's how brains work. You're going to keep panicking. You're going to keep, and so it's just, if you want to be your best, most expanded, empowered, powerful, authentic self, you need to have an amazing connection with your emotions, your power, and have those pathways clear and moving. You need to become very good at moving fear into your healing, through the healing pathways. You need to become great at moving guilt and shame. Shame is wonderful to move through. You want to talk about major life upgrades and clearing out your subconscious mind? Shame. Find that stuff, move it through. And so, but that's like, there's so much going on with that it's like, don't be mad that you're angry again, or hurt again, or eating potato chips again, or your system is expressing itself and it's telling you exactly where the problem is, which emotion needs to move, and what thought is stopping it, and where the problems are. And if we can just hear that. And so let's come back. We're coming back to I just, on my pedestal over here, going to town. Okay, we're talking about panic at night. So helping your brain move through grief is helpful. Okay, and then you move from lung to large intestine, which is also grief, but it's more unfelt grief, and it's also part of the letting go process. Large intestine, letting go, right? That's what they do, but it's part of, emotionally, it's the same thing. That energy, that meridian, that large intestine meridian, is part of the letting go process. And so if you're waking up during those times and you're trying to sleep but you can't, and you're like, gosh, just 2 more hours, give me 2 more hours, some of that may be there's some things that you need to let go of, that are difficult to let go of, or you're not ready to let go of, and you need to, and your brain's working on it. But if you're waking up during those times, a lot of times that means it just didn't have what it needed to finish the work or to process it, and that's when you want to help it out. Okay, so if you are having panic attacks at night, there is a reason for it. There is a solution for it, and that solution will lead to amazing transformations. And it's like, when you process that stuff, your inner healer has found so many missing pieces. It's like when she gets that stuff going and connected, you experience an upgrade. You see yourself doing new things. You see where you were blocked before, now you're not. You see yourself functioning at a higher plane, and that's because This is not a technical term, but watch. Like there's all these like nets, right, in your brain. Not nets, it's like trampoline, that trampoline material. But imagine over here there's stuff that isn't laid yet, so it's open, and so every time you go try to jump on that part, you just fall through because it. But when she gets through with these emotional pieces, she's like, oh, this will fit right there, and she'll put them in there, and the next thing you know, you're on the trampoline jumping around, and it's like firm, and it's like you're doing it, and you're like, look at me, these things I'm doing. And this happens with people's boundaries, with their ability to feel connection, with their ability to trust, with their ability to trust themselves, with their ability to stay calm, not be reactive. I mean, this is phenomenal. And this right here, this moving emotion is probably about 90% of the work that I do with clients, if not 95%. So I'm telling you, and I just help them do it a lot because I'm not playing around with these symptoms. I don't want to be doing this for the next year. So, but if you understand, if you've got an anxiety, depression, and trauma disorder, there's a lot of emotion that's not making it through because brains don't do that on purpose. They don't make anxiety disorders on purpose. They're stuck somewhere. And so you really can work through and resolve that if you'll get in there and help it out. So that's really what I wanted to share. If you have any questions about that, I think I did the two things I said I was going to do. I think I did it. Okay, so, but I want to tell you that this is a major component that I teach in my 8-week small group intensive. And that's for women who just know that you could move into higher levels of expansion if you could just eliminate these symptoms and just move past this. And that's really who this is for. And if also that for women who are sick and tired of suffering with anxiety, depression, and or traumatic stress. And so that's really what I do with that. If this is a program that interests you, I've included information of that in the top part of this video, and you can check on that and see if those details look like what you're looking for. Also, if you want more information about what I'm doing, you want to be connected to the posts that I'm sending out, or you want to make sure you don't miss any, you can join my email list. And but if you're interested in working together, definitely reach out to me by DM. If you're the kind of person who wants to get on a call and have a phone call about this, go ahead and book a call by going to rachelmcleod.com/call. And we'll discuss all these things and get you to your next steps. Okay. All right. Good luck with the panic attacks. You can do this. If you need some support, get it. Get it, get it, get it. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So I will see you another time, and have a good evening.